Hello, and welcome to Zap the Gender Pay Gap, the podcast series where we expose the elephant in the room. The elephant's name, the gender pay gap. I am coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, located on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Nestled in the southwest corner of the state, Memphis is home to the blues, barbecue, and so much more. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker.
Thank you so very much for joining me for this episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Look for me on Apple, Spotify, Google, and YouTube, or any other platform where you find your favorite podcast. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. You know I would so appreciate it. I am so delighted you joined me for today's episode. You want to know why? This episode is episode number 52, which means I started this podcast exactly 1 year ago. So this makes it the first anniversary. Can I get a yay? Imagine that. 1 year doing this, publishing weekly podcasts. It's definitely a milestone, especially when I think back to how nervous I was at just the thought of launching a podcast. When my coach suggested it as a way to get the word out about this thing called the gender pay gap and show as many women as possible how to get out, I was shaking in my boots. You've heard the phrases being all thumbs or having two left shoes. Yes, that was me. But here I am, 52 weeks later, and I live to tell y'all about it. Talk about a wild ride. That's an understatement. I started this journey not knowing where it would lead, but here I am. I didn't die, I lived. For those of you who know me, even just a little bit, you know that quotes tend to stick with me like glue. Well, this one definitely does. It's from Stephen Furtick, and it goes like this: You can't fulfill your calling unless you get out of your comfort zone. And boy, did I get out of my comfort zone. And you know what? I can honestly say, I'm glad I did. I can honestly say that I have grown in so many ways. You know, the thing that was the most uncomfortable? It wasn't the topic. With my background and experience in publicly traded companies, as well as HR and specifically in DEI, felt very comfortable discussing the gender pay gap. And having reached the point of earning well over 100K base pay plus bonus and bennies in the form of stock options at the point of leaving corporate America, sharing about my experience, that was not difficult. But you know, the thing that was most difficult and felt unnerving for me was the idea of talking to people I could not see. I didn't know who would actually listen to my podcast. But I am so thankful I took the leap. Otherwise, I would not have gotten a chance to talk with or hear from people like you. Some I have met and some I've not met, and may never meet in person, but I get to meet you here on this platform. I have viewers both near and far. I even received some great news from viewers as far as Iceland. Cool is that? Or should I say, how cold is that? After launching Zap the Gender Pay Gap, I have taken people up on the offer to be a guest on their podcast, speak on their TV show, and share my insights at conferences and other venues. Who would have thought that getting out of my comfort zone and launching this podcast would have taken me to the places I've been? And I am so thrilled. I have colleagues who generously forward articles and share other insights that will be helpful to you as you listen and learn about the gender pay gap. When I launched ZAP, the gender pay gap, I did it for three reasons. One was to expose this elephant in the room, to shine a spotlight on this thing that was eating away at a large portion of a woman's pay. I wanted to make it visible, to shove it into the light so that you could not miss it. Heretofore, this elephant has been wearing a mask, and I was determined to reveal what this thing has been trying to conceal. Two, I wanted to disclose some previously unknown information, some pertinent facts about the impact that this elephant is making. And if we let it stay, it just may eat us out of house and home. And then, of course, number three, in addition to exposing and disclosing some information about this elephant in the room, I wanted to show you how to dispose of the effects of this elephant by finding and fixing the gender pay gap and doing so for every woman who would listen. That's why I started right off the bat telling you about this elephant in the room, then 5 alarming facts about the gender pay gap. But I also shared with you some of those pioneers who were and are determined to show women how to do something about it. I even talked to you about Simone Biles, the greatest athlete of all time in gymnastics, who was underestimated, and how she proved her naysayers wrong. I even told you about the time I spoke to a group of girls from Hutchinson School about the gender pay gap. Now, Hutchinson is a private school for girls located right here in Memphis, Tennessee, and they are located on a very beautiful campus. You want to know what their motto is? Their motto is anywhere she can imagine. I just love that, don't you? You may be asking, well, why talk to high school girls about the gender pay gap? They're not in the workplace. One reason is because starting in college, this elephant can grab a chunk of a woman's pay every single payday. And they need to know this before they get in the workplace and even before they get into college. This elephant is unrelenting in its efforts to keep women in the workplace left behind financially, even before we enter our career, during our working years, and after we leave the workforce too, which affects our pension and other retirement benefits. Now, Ms. Ford is their advisor, and she invited me to talk with the girls to expose this to them to this information early in an effort to keep it from happening to them. So hats off to Mrs. Ford and the girls at Hutchinson School for being such forward thinkers. Now, I'd like to keep this elephant from pulling down your pay each payday too, which is why for the entire month of November, I talked with you about the fact that many women get left behind when it comes to pay, especially when it comes to asking for a raise. Women make a number of huge mistakes that causes them to keep getting left behind. I shared with you what those 8 mistakes are, and I don't want you to make one of them. So since the beginning of the year, I've been talking with you about dreaming more, planning more, and doing more so that you can have more in 2024. Please take some time to listen to previous episodes. Now, I'm sure you desire greater sense of well-being in every area of your life, of being happy, healthier, or prosperous. I know I do. Now, I'm not sure what you've been dreaming about lately, but my dreams center around being healthier, wealthier, and wiser, which are key ingredients for increased and enhanced well-being. So, what's my dream for Zap the Gender Pay Gap in 2024? My dream is to reach as many women in the workplace as I can, alerting them to the fact that there's an elephant in the room and that this elephant is doing major damage to a woman's pocketbook, AKA her financial security, both in the short term and the long term. I dream of showing women in the workplace how to achieve a greater degree of workplace well being by closing their pay gap and increasing their take home pay. I dream of sounding the alarm so young girls in high school will be aware that the gender pay gap exists and how to avoid falling into the trap. So in season 2, I will bring you up to date information on the state of pay for women in the workplace and show you how to find pathways for increasing your pay. Remember the motto for Hutchinson School? Anywhere she can imagine? I imagine Zap the Gender Pay Gap will empower women everywhere to advocate for themselves, to not settle for less than their due, and to step up to the plate and ask for that raise in pay. As I bring season 1 to a close, I urge you to dream more, plan more, so you can do more in 2024. You have been made for more in 2024. Please get every bit of it, my friend, and leave nothing on the table. Another one of my dreams is to show women in the workplace how to free themselves from the gender pay gap so that they can fund their dreams. I still have a few one-on-one coaching slots available, so please message me back if you're interested in hearing more. Just go to gwendolynjtucker.com and click on contact. I will put the link in the description box at the end of the show notes on this episode. So just check it out and then reach out to me. Women, because you work hard for your money, please take home all of it. I do once again thank you so much for joining me on this journey during season 1 of my podcast. Words simply cannot express how much I truly appreciate you and your support. Please plan to join me next time and invite a woman in your world to listen into. Session 2 begins next week. I can hardly wait. I look forward to seeing you there next Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time for the next episode of Zap, the Gender Pay Gap. Until then, please be well.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Zap, the Gender Pay Gap. Please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow me wherever you get your favorite podcast. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.